Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Edge Podcast. This is the very first episode, and on this episode, I've got my very best friends, Kenny Youngar and Dereak Messer, joining me, and we're going to dive into all things Messer. We're going to get into deep cuts, where it all began, the full arc of how things started, and where they are today, and where we're going to be in the future. So sit down and turn it up for the Edge. Welcome to the
Here
studio.
we are, yeah,
This is
looking good.
the Edge.
Fancy.
Put some thought into this.
This is obviously the first episode of the Edge podcast, and I thought since it's kind of like a little bit, it's kind of like my next evolution. I guess what I'm doing. We're gonna get to what's everybody's. What are you doing with your life? We're gonna get to all of that, but what I'm doing with my life is I'm making a podcast now and kind of transitioning, taking some of my experiences from not just being in the band, but life and everything, and that kind of encompasses that, and putting that in a podcast form that maybe can help some other artist or just anybody really, for that matter.
Yeah, all those interviews that you've done over the years, man. You're a pro.
I know it's all been leading to this.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where we are. Over here at Maddox Messer Incorporated, as we're trying to figure
LLC.
out LLC. We're trying to figure it all out. So I know a lot of people have questions about what's going on with Messer, and I feel like this is a good opportunity for us to kind of address some of that. Obviously, there's only three of us sitting here. Then there were three.
And then there were three.
Let's just tell a little bit briefly, I guess, give a little bit of the story of Messer for those who may not be familiar with you guys and our band and everything.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be turning, I guess, 17 this July would have been.
Yeah.
So 17 years, it's a lot of history.
It
Yeah,
is.
it is kind of crazy how long it's been, and it seems like a blink of an eye.
It
They always
does.
say that about everything that's
Sure.
Yeah.
meaningful to you.
Kind of take us back, I guess, to the genesis, I guess, a little bit, to when we, first started jamming over at the compound a little bit, Kenny. I mean,
Officially, I think it was like around 2009. I'd been in a band called Strangleweed from like 2001 to like 2007. And we got involved with Matthew JC and the Rock the Troops people. So we had kind of had some history. Like that was my first band actually when I started music here in Dallas.
right.
So Dallas, it's, as everybody knows, it's a pretty tight-knit little community. Deep Ellum just brought so many people together, and now, I mean, here we are 25 years later. It's cool to see
The people who are still out here doing it, right?
still
Yeah.
doing
Yeah,
it, and I
for
mean,
sure.
how they had to parlay a lot of their career choices, but the ones that have stuck with it, I mean, oh my God, almost 3 decades later. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Sure.
We're moving into like, it's 2026, new year, new me type of thing. And anyway, to get back on track, after some of my first initial bands here, I think I was in Sweet Texas Crude,
Yeah, I think that was what
and
it
I
was.
think
That's where we started.
I just left Turning Point, and I think when I met you, you were in a acoustic act, I think.
Yeah, I was still doing stuff with John DeLuca from July Alley days, from way
Yeah.
back in the day. God, we started here in the late 80s, early 90s, really in this area. And Deep Ellum was our
You kind of
spot.
had the unique experience in the early days where you were signed with your band July Alley to like a traditional
Yeah.
record deal, which we can gonna get more into the economics and the business of music. probably later on in this conversation. But kind of give us a little brief, I guess, history on what that was like. You know what I mean? To have that traditional record label.
Man, I tell you, back then, things were, like you said, were so different than they are now. It was way more free. And I always tell people this who aren't as familiar with Deep Ellum, but back in those days, you go down there and it was like every venue you walked into, every club you go into was just absolute packed and a great band. It might not have been your genre, your style. Yeah, but just great music every single night. So, I got to grow up in that world, and
sure,
things were so different back then. But yeah, I got signed to Columbia Records doing a showcase in Memphis, Tennessee.
Right, Beale Street.
Right off Beale Street.
Yeah. We played there with Messer,
Omni
right?
New Dixie. We stopped there and checked it out.
That's right. That's
playing
so
this
crazy.
producer showcase, and a guy walks up to me after the show, and his name was Nick Terzo. He was big with Columbia Records at the time. And he's offered interest in us and said, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you more about doing a deal with us."
He was just there, like
he was there just scouting bands. No, he was from
this
Seattle.
Is pre-social media,
he was from Seattle.
He just happened to be there,
and he just happened to be. That was one of his spots to go check out.
But you guys weren't even from Memphis. You were just on tour, just
we
grinding it out.
We recorded there with a guy named Eli Ball, producer from way back then. He used to work with Deep Purple back in the day.
Okay.
And
Smoke on the water, right?
Yeah, back in those days, you know what I mean? So this guy was crazy, but he had a good friend, Eli Ball, who had a studio right there on the river in Memphis, right when you cross the bridge. He was over there to the right. And this guy did some demos with us and brought in the drummer from Amy Grant, which was kind of crazy to do the tracks with us.
Yeah. Wow.
And so we were playing those songs at this showcase, and that's when I got approached by Nick Terzo, and I was young, cocky, thought we knew it all, thought, we had this badass band, who's this guy asking me about my music?
Yeah.
And he says, "Hey, I'd like to maybe do a record deal with you. I'd like to talk to you about doing a record deal." And my cocky self said, "Well, who have you signed? Have you signed any band?" Not that I even knew what that meant really, you know what I mean? But and he goes, "Yeah, I just signed this band, Alice in Chains." And I was like, holy hell. Their album had just come out, so.
You already heard them?
I had already heard, had heard it, Man in the Box, I think, was on the radio at that time.
First one.
And it was just like, So then we straightened up and paid a little more attention to what he was saying. And the rest was history, We got to live that moment, record, do an album. And then the dark side of the music business hit. And it got shelved and...
ultimately
shelved.
The shuffle, the change of the guard, just you guys were kind of right at the very
end of that free fall.
Kids these days will never get to experience that. Living on going out on the record label card party.
I mean, every time the parties, limos to and from everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was all on their dime.
On their dime, get your friends to belly up to the bar. I got drinks all night for them, type of stuff. And
hotels,
they actually gave you money, which is pretty cool. When you signed a deal, they give you money back then, and you don't see that these days as much.
God.
No,
the golden era, the end of the golden era.
Yeah. But we got to do things that a lot of people will never get to experience in their lives.
I'll tell you one thing we got to do that people will never get to experience ever again, and that is make real music that's not created by artificial intelligence. There's one thing that now that moving forward, it's like you can't say that any longer about any new music. And so it's like I'm grateful that we got
experience the real side of
things. So at some point along those lines, we all kind of managed to find our way together. I was playing in, of course, some local bands in and around Dallas. I think I had found myself, newly divorced and fresh out of hair school and just trying to figure out what I was doing with my life at that time. And
you're still on my phone as Maddox does hair.
Maddox does hair. That's right. Maddox did hair today, as a matter of fact. Still does that. No one pays me anymore, but I still do it. But I think the real story is like I do remember briefly our encounter when my band at the time, Forever Sunday with Coomer was 6 Gauge. We would get booked. With you guys because Kenny and Coomer were on the reality TV show on VH1 Daisy of Love. And
Daisy of Love.
Yeah.
so I remember hanging out with you guys, and I think I was just like back home in Fort Worth, and I didn't really have a friend group or anything like that. And I just opened up at the Fort Worth Weekly and saw, you guys are playing down the street. So I just showed up down there and just started
That's
talking.
right. Were you guys still playing for every
No,
Sunday?
I had given up music altogether at that point in my life. I was actually just focusing on painting, doing art. I was really I'd
That's
moved,
crazy,
That's why I
yeah.
moved to the
It's-
cultural district in Fort Worth to begin with,
Yeah.
because I wanted to paint. I wanted to pursue my art, and then I put all the brakes on that and went right back into music after
Because
hanging out with
that's
you
right.
guys.
I was in Backseat Continental.
That's right.
That was the
That's
other band I was
right.
trying to think of, because
Yeah,
we
with
had
Patrick
rehearsal
and-
the next day,
Yeah.
and Billy
Billy threw a fit.
had a fit
Yeah.
the night, and then we invited him out
To a party.
No, you know what it was? We were going to get you in on
No,
guitar.
I'd shown up, and I remember asking you guys. I was like, "Oh, I liked your set." I said, "You guys ever think?" Because I
Get
was
a
playing
second
guitar. I said,
guitar.
"You
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
ever think about getting a second guitar player?" And I think Javier was like, as a matter of fact, we just had a conversation about getting a second guitar player,
Yeah.
and we're having a party tomorrow. So
Come
on
on
out. And I did. I actually ended up getting lost, and I think I showed up a couple hours late to the
well,
party.
what most people don't know is we had that deal with Billy, had an altercation at the show that
At
he
the
didn't
show.
know about. So when he called the next day to go,
yeah.
hey, I'm coming,
Yeah.
we said, hey, we had to let Billy go. Do you think you could
They could
switch
switch
to
to a
bass?
bass.
Or maybe you
Well,
brought
That's
it
what
was
it
at the
was.
party. Basically it
Said,
was
"We
like
need a bass player."
I show up and go, good news. And I think Javier, this is back to good old Javier
But you bought
days.
you got a bass rig
Well,
on the way.
That
on the
was
way
at
to
a,
the
at a
party?
rehearsal a week
First
later.
rehearsal.
So,
First
like,
rehearsal,
So
gotcha.
I remember this now distinctly because I remember it's almost like it plays back like a movie. I walk in and Javier's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he's buzzed a little bit. You could tell he had a few beers, and he goes, "Good news, bad news." He goes, "Bad news. Billy quit the band. Good news, we're just fucking partying, And so
Yeah.
I was like, oh, all right. So we're just hanging out, partying and drinking. And at some point, I just was like,
Did you bring your guitar rig that day
I was
to
gonna
the party?
the guitar stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'll play bass, And they're like,
Yeah.
all right, that's whatever. And we didn't think nothing of it. But then like a week later, they're like, hey, we're gonna have a rehearsal. Like I'm gonna show up and play bass, and I didn't have a bass,
Yeah.
Yes.
and I didn't have a bass amp or any bass equipment whatsoever at all.
Yeah.
And the real, crux of that story is back then it was Craigslist. I remember getting on Craigslist and just looking for, I was really looking what was going to be convenient on the way from Fort Worth to Dallas as to where I was looking to buy. So I didn't really even care. I was like, I need a bass amp
Yeah.
on the way somewhere between Fort Worth and here. And I found, an amp and a bass and
I think you actually said, "Hey, I don't care how big it is, how heavy it is, how many pieces it is."
yeah. At
but
some
let's
point,
get
I
it.
did not realize that I was going to get there, and there were going to be 3 flights of
Three
stairs.
flights
Yeah.
of stairs.
Oh God! But
It was a
that was
Harkey
really
system you got, wasn't it?
it
Was
was
it a Harkey?
a Gallon Cougar,
Gallon
GK.
Cougar,
It was
that's
just
right.
like it was decent. It was good, but I didn't know what I was doing. But it's like I remember going there, and then that first time that we had all kind of, jammed together, played.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, oh, this felt different.
It
something
felt
was
different.
different.
Yeah.
So much so that like I had gone home. And I said, man, I don't know what this is, but something is telling me I've got to do this. And I spent the next week or so in between that rehearsal,
Yeah.
getting newer bass, better bass. I was, well, if I'm going to play
Yeah,
bass, I
you
need to
kept
know.
leveling
I
up.
better level this up and come come correct with it. So I got something even bigger and even heavier.
I need heavier.
Yeah.
This is not heavy
But
enough.
that's kind of the genesis of that was Billy had kind of quit the band, and I just I just stepped up and did it, and then realized that at some point I was like, oh, I am a bass player. Like I became I definitely
Yeah.
like became a student of the
Maddox does
instrument.
bass.
Maddox
Yeah.
does bass now.
Yeah.
But
Some
yeah.
people probably don't even know that you were the guitar player at the beginning before
No.
we even
No, I mean
started.
people like it. Well, now I just shot a music video. First music video I think I've shot. Well, maybe first music video I've shot professionally as on guitar. So like, there's a
Yeah, I
video
saw
coming out
it.
where I'm playing guitar in the music video. So that's gonna throw
Yeah.
people off. But I've been a guitar player and been playing and keep my chops up and use them all the time. I'm actually probably more guitar than anything nowadays in production stuff. But I digress. Obviously, we had, Javier, and, of course, Javier and Donnie aren't here, but that's kind of part of our story too, is that, we, Javier had kind of come in and we added Donnie at some point, and we started
that
getting...
was because the album was sounding so thick.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little. I actually had a couple questions. I actually want to talk about, what we thought at that moment, what we thought about Messer, and then did we ever really think that it would end up as far as it did and do the things that we did? Like, did you really, thinking back to, the old Messatori studio days and,
Yeah, I mean,
I know we had high hopes.
It's when younger, when we were younger back then, it was like, fake it till you make it type of thing. So everybody, you're always trying to grab for the carrot. But I think when the album was getting put together is when we all kind of went,
this is something.
This is serious. That's when, with the corporate paperwork came out and signatures and...
Yeah, I think that's kind of
because we were like, this shit's about to take off. We got that's the LLC got formed, and it's like, hey guys, we really need to fucking strap in for this because the way this record's turning big. So I think up until that point it was like, we're gonna kick ass, but then we locked ourselves down for those 4 years, and it was like practice, and we were getting ready for the Super Bowl of our day.
I don't think really. I mean, obviously, nowadays, I mean, now it's so different with how music is done, but going back to just the early 2000s, and YouTube had only been around a couple of years. People forget that, and I felt like had a unique opportunity to have the perspective that we had at that time period, because we had your perspective from the music industry, your perspective of things that you've done from being a strong independent artist.
You've always been trying to be on the cutting edge of the technology. When we used to go to NAMM and you guys used to sniff out the newest gear, the shit that we were trying to get ahead of the game on. I think kids nowadays are going to be jumping onto this AI thing, and we're the old dogs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're
to
going
some degree. I mean, AI. I mean, we can go. That's a whole other podcast to go into AI and music, which we ought to be glad to get into, and we will get into. These are great topics for the Edge podcast. But I think we had the unique idea. I think that first tour we did with Black Label Society had kind of opened a lot of eyes to me as to what could I do for our production, because for me, I was like, I'm here playing bass and we got these great songs, but my head was also always in the production side of things, how can we deliver the best possible show with
every night,
and we didn't have a major label budget. We wanted to be consistent, and we saw how we were treated as an opener back in those early days, and we're like, oh man, we're going to have to be sneakier about this stuff. And of course, fast forward to today, and every band rolls a rack on stage. But you remember all the pushback that we used to get?
Yeah, they didn't know what the hell was going on.
The first day we showed up, I think it was Pop Evil's tech. They were just like, no drum risers.
Oh, yeah.
And we're like, what do you mean no drum risers?
We told you no snares on this tour.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that kids, if you don't know, a lot of opening acts, or not opening acts, but a lot of headlining acts rather, will handicap the openers and not let them have full access to the PA. Maybe they only get half the speakers, or the lights,
or no smoke,
no lights, no smoke,
no riser
to do this. And I'm glad that that's kind of, to some degree, I think a lot of that's kind of gone away. Everybody, because production is so accessible now to opening acts. And, I know for myself, speaking for Messer as a headliner, I always wanted our shows to be a good production from start to finish, you know what I mean? But obviously with time constraints and things like that.
Space.
Those things are all, I had a portable on the way here. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Just kidding. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Those things are all, I think a little bit less kind of. They're still keeping guys from having access to PA, but we figured out we could get around all that.
Just sound good. Just sound through the high quality sound, and you can be lower.
And if you think about it, really, those opening bands have have everything to lose and everything to gain, you know, from those spots. The headliners, what do you think? I mean, they're getting paid, but it's like you've got 25 minutes to make an impression, you know, that's hopefully going to translate into, you know, some type of numbers. And I felt like, you know, we were spending so much of our lives financially and our time that like we owed it to ourselves to try to put our best foot forward
always
when we had that opportunity, because those opportunities were so scarce, you know. And so that was really kind of it's
a learning process, man. We all started with that, you know, illusion of what we knew we wanted.
Sure.
But just trying to suck in all that education from what we knew as a group, you know what I mean? Like when we started the band, it was like the daddy of each band. Each band's got a daddy.
Yeah.
And we wanted to have one band of all the daddies.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, for sure.
So,
well, I mean, to some degree, that's why the three of us are still sitting here, you know, it's like,
right.
and
now we're grandpappies.
Now we're grandpappies. But, you know, we'll definitely get into kind of like, you know, I wish Javier. So I have no. I mean, I love all the guys. I think Matt asked me earlier today, like, what was your favorite
guitar player
version? Favorite version of Messer. And you know, I had to think back. It's like really, I thought, you know, the most fun I had performing was definitely probably with Jonathan. I think, you know, he made it definitely more fun. I don't just because he was younger than us or whatever. But definitely, you know, Bobby was probably one of the more talented, you know, people.
Sure. It's you know, it was a different flavor for all the different years. I mean, you know, 17 years later, there's
yeah, but for sure, you know, it took Javier and Donnie to be there in those early days to help us really build it, and we couldn't have really done it, you know, without those guys being part of it. So. You know, and of course our producer Chad, who, you know, is obviously there helping us really fine tune that. But we, you know, we learned as we were, you know, as
it's
we were
a learning
being,
experience, you know, and we take it with us to the whatever projects we're in.
It carries over, doesn't it?
It does, and
life
hopefully
life
some
in general, you know,
some
what I
kids
mean?
out there will learn from it and save you a decade of banging.
Yeah,
right.
We can tell you the do's and don'ts right now.
Well,
don't be in a band.
Yeah.
I know. For me, I know when the kind of this moment hit me. But was there? When did it really start to feel real? I guess for you guys at the moment when like we went from being like, you know, this is different, this is for real. When was that for you guys?
Well, I mean, honestly, when we met Chad on that tour out to L.A.,
that was a crazy story.
To have a real producer kind of like go, hey, this is, you know, this is the biz. It's what you dream about. You know, I can't wait till we get a producer and this and that. And then you have to understand when you get a producer, it's
what does that even mean? Like, I don't.
What does it mean? Yeah, it's
what
like,
does that mean?
Well, it means it's you've got accountability. I think was a big thing because if you're self-governed, most musicians are really independent and they do what they want. I say what I want. I wear what I want. Do what I want.
Yeah.
When you have a producer come in and he's trying to tone the edges down, I guess on the rough edges, you kind of be like, well, dude, you know, what are you talking about? That's how I play drums.
Yeah.
You know, and somebody just trying to suggest, well, you know, maybe if you don't, you know, if you aim your stick this way or you don't, and all of a sudden you get defensive about things.
Yeah.
So I think the accountability of like, hey, maybe there's somebody that can better you.
Sure.
That's where it gets real because all of a sudden your ego is now, you know, slow down, son. You're whatever age you are, and here's somebody that's been in the biz. It's worked with like, you know, the best musicians in the business, the labels, and everybody, and your ego gets a little bruised. But I think he put it was he had to really cut us down to the bottom ego, so that he could rebuild us properly.
I mean, every producer has their, and you know, every producer definitely has their methods to what it is that they're trying to accomplish. And you know, I think Chad's vision, you know, really kind of aligned with, you know, with ours, and in the fact that we were willing participants to be
in
vulnerable.
his experiment,
you know.
I
mean, it kind of was an experiment. We're all like, hey, there is no record. Like, we have a chance to, like, we've never had this opportunity. Now, you know, nobody wrote a big check and said, here's $1 million, go make a record, kids. It was just like, well, we just really dug in and figured out, you know, things like, obviously, like, we could go to a recording studio or we could just take that money and just build a recording studio. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
at some point, it's like you have to have the entrepreneurial mindset, and that's probably my superpower in all of this, was really just being able to
Think of the business.
to see it as a business and see the band as a product. And again, it's like with any product, you have to build it almost flush. You have to flush it out 100% before
Yeah.
you ever walk into the Shark Tank and try to sell it. You know what I mean? It's
That's
like,
kind of how he sold it, was
Yeah.
that he'd always worked with, top-notch artists, and he says, I've never plucked a nobody band out of the middle of Texas to work with from the ground up.
And I think
like a
Chad was
fresh
smart
slate.
because, and what he saw, I think, in that moment, and what I look for probably as a producer now in my, when I'm looking to work with artists, is the level of passion and conviction in the performance, because that's one thing. It's like you can't teach somebody you can't fake passion. You can't fake.
No. Oh, no.
You can't fake it. You can teach fundamentals of skills and techniques, but you can't teach someone to just authentically,
Wanna do it.
You want to do
have
it.
that
And
passion. And
I think that he was smart to see, all right, here's a group of guys who are passionate enough
Hungry enough.
to want to do it. And, I think at that point in all of our lives, we were all probably, I guess, mature enough to be able to
Humble.
and humble and
Yeah.
humble enough ish. It did require a lot more humbling, I think, along the way. I know for myself to figure out exactly what all this meant. But I think it goes back to having an understanding of intention. And if I try to tell anybody kind of what we went through, and I'm going to do it in like an elevator pitch, I would just say is have an understanding of intention, because I never did before. And now, and that carries over really in life, not just not just with music, but when I'm producing a track and I'm recording, and I've got all of the intention in focus and in line with the music. And then that carried over into our live performance. Once we all learned, why am I playing this note here? What does it mean? And then we start getting into like what I try to explain. So we focused in our sound. It became more focused.
very focused.
It became sharper. The image became sharper. Before, maybe we were,
Playing for ourselves.
we were playing for ourselves, and it's like, and then and there's this and there's that, and it might have sounded like we were painting a picture with a really fat blunt tip marker with not a lot of detail. You know what I mean?
Watercolor versus
Now
detail.
HD.
it became super like
Ultra HD.
ultra HD and super like focused, so that it allowed us to ultimately weaponize our sound design.
Yeah.
But
way
really-
before a lot of people got into
Way
that.
before anything was doing any of that stuff. And of course we can get into the technology, and that's another podcast that we're going to definitely
There's so many
get into. There's
podcasts
so
within
many
this
podcasts
conversation.
within this conversation. So it's
Yeah.
like, how do we get one in? But that's just all the more reason why you should definitely be liking and subscribing and following the Edge podcast, because you're going to want to hear how we created all of this stuff. So, kind of jumping around a little bit. So we got the record done, right? And then it was like, then what? You know what I mean? The grind, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, what?
Well, you get the album done, then you got to learn the album.
Well, and of course we were kind of learning the album as we were doing. The band had the
Locked
benefit
in the studio.
Yeah, the band had the benefit of learning the music long before you had the chance, and then for the rest of us to do the vocals, because that had come first. But yeah, we had to learn it. We had to build our production. Remember how many hours we spent programming lights back in the day?
Remember
Getting
that,
our light
Mike?
show, because when a lot of people know when Messer came out of the womb, so to speak, we came out kind of fully grown with the pretty modern
that was
production. It's
4
pretty common
years.
now, but in 2000 and
Whatever it was.
15, 12 or whatever, that
People didn't understand how they hadn't heard of us, because we clearly sounded like They should have.
It
It's
was-
like, well, how is this possible that
Yeah.
I haven't heard of you?
Or
Yeah.
the big one we got is like, how did they were left standing there scratching their head, looking at their speakers in their venue, going, how did our speakers just do that?
Yeah.
That was also in a time when now this gets real technical terms, but there were all the consoles were still analog in a lot of those venues, and we were the only the first time a lot of sound guys had ever seen a digital console come through their venue. So I remember those conversations. But the grind on tour, remember those the first I guess the first big kind of tour that we went out on. Really, I mean that first couple of years we were kind of gone.
We went
Oh
hard.
yeah, for
Went
sure.
hard,
I mean,
That was the grind.
I mean, I think when we were coming out of the studio, we finally had this egg that we've been sitting on. It's about to hatch. And I mean, I remember even at the start of that, Chad was like, I'm not putting my name on this until you guys hone your shit together.
Sure,
know, so even me just as a drummer, he was like, dude, you gotta, we're trying to get to another level. Do you want to be opening for an NXS level type band, or do you want to be stuck in Texas?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to think worldwide. So I know at least for myself, it was digging deep, extra rehearsals, extra practices, and, then to finally get out on tour, now you've got to take everything you learn in a room by yourself or with the guys to a stage.
And performing in front of different people every night.
Yeah. So now the real learning, the real live learning, because some people, say that you don't really learn anything until you're on stage. You can
100%.
practice in a basement or whatever.
There is something to be said about people always say we look seasoned, and a band once a band, and you can tell now when you go and you see a band and that's really what I think separates local bands from guys that have done the grind, is that you start to realize that we do this every single night, and then that muscle memory starts to kind of
you find your rhythm.
you find
with the
your
people.
rhythm, yeah.
being in front of people.
and then for sure that muscle grows. And I know we've talked about this on numerous occasions. The fans that we were connecting with along the way, sharing their stories of what song connected with them.
Yeah.
Remember that guy that just broke down on the front row crying?
Yeah,
Those stories.
that was
we kinda-
nightly.
Yeah, we would take those
Nightly.
stories and kind of carrying those songs would kind of get heavier and heavier through the years. I think what I mean. That intention, just became more and more.
Well, touring like we did, the grind, the guerrilla marketing from the ground up, you get to play the venues where you can connect with the people.
Yeah.
Some of these, maybe TikTok guys come out and they're already selling out 2,000 seat clubs,
They don't even know.
they don't know the whole
they don't know.
grassroots invasion
Yeah.
that we did across the country.
To really connect with people.
Yeah.
They don't
On
really.
that
They don't really have
face-to-face
that
level.
So what? I guess because I know I definitely had a few, but what or I guess misunderstandings about the music industry did you think you had kind of when this was starting to take off? What did we? What
It's
did you-
not all hookers and cocaine.
Well, it's definitely not that.
I mean, occasionally. No, I'm just
Once in a while. But
For me, it was kind of how radio worked. You know what I mean?
yeah, there you go.
that's another podcast.
There's a whole
right
other
there.
podcast.
That's a whole other.
Tune in for that one.
That's a whole other podcast. But
Yeah, explain that. I mean,
I'll try to do a synopsis
in
of
nuts
it,
and
but,
bolts.
Yeah, the nuts and bolts of. Well, I mean, the reality of it is
because
that
kids won't understand it.
as a band, we essentially signed ourselves. We created Mad Pants Records, which is just us,
Yeah.
And
Well, we kept everything in house. We did the web, we did
did
the
it all.
merch, we did the bus, we
we
did
try
the
to, we were building a product, and that product has all these different revenue streams, and it's every one of them needs the same amount of attention and focus and to
100%.
detail,
Which
and
a
it's-
record label.
which a record label would have a team of
encompasses.
people to do. And it's hard that when you're not getting, we're not getting paid to this day, even right now as we speak, I think we all have invested just a countless amount of money, of our own personal money from our day jobs that we've mostly kept, doing this. So it wasn't like there was a ton of money to be made. It's just that we just kind of
just be smart about
be
it.
smart about it, and I know that we definitely probably had gotten taken advantage of in the early, once, what's that? Fool me, what's that? Fool me twice, don't make a fool out of me. Fool
Fool me 3 times.
but I think like we can get into like buy on conversations. We can get into radio promo conversations. But I think the big misunderstanding was that we were going to go out there and somebody was going to see us performing and go, "Woo, you guys! Here's a big cigar and a record deal," and like whisk us away or someone was going to want to buy. I don't know what I thought that was going to happen really, but. Ultimately, it just required us to just kind of be responsible for our own career paths, which at any point we should be, because essentially when you're starting a band, you're basically starting a business. You are starting a business, not even basically. You're starting a business, and the product is the music and the performances and the merchandise and all the things that come around.
You're like starting 10 businesses though too, because
it's 10, because you got there's the touring
you
side.
You got a book, and you got to just driving the bus, and then you've got
a tour bus talk. That's a whole other podcast.
Maintenance on a tour bus while on tour.
Or just even routing.
Routing.
There's people
booking.
that just route tours by themselves, and if you got to drive and you got to do the gas and you got to do the
and remember, obviously we briefly skipping over the van days, but we did the grind in the Ford.
We did it all.
Shitty van.
Every bit of
we started in the shittiest shitty van. We went to a less shitty van.
So the progression was that we had the rape van. Which was like a windowless Dodge, like 98 Dodge.
Ladder racks on top.
Ladder racks. I was installing
Dish
cameras
Direct.
Dish
Direct. Satellite dish.
I was your cable guy.
Dish TV.
And we put a wall up. And we added seats so that the gear wouldn't smash into people, but it still had the steel grate across it. I remember
no air conditioning.
Very unsafe. Can we just say that? Very unsafe.
Yeah.
And then I think I took one trip in that, and that's it.
You said,
"Oh hell no.
I'm gonna get chairs. I'm gonna get seats."
So then you got the time machine, which was a
96
conversion,
Ford conversion.
Conversion. That was like luxury.
Had the high top. We could you could stand up.
I could stand up.
Derek could almost stand up.
But it was all
nice.
cushy. It was all blue on blue.
Yeah,
right?
it was nice.
Yeah.
Ran out of gas in that more than once.
Then we did the Sprinter,
and then we built the Sprinter van, which was again,
which is on YouTube. We should put that on TikTok or something.
I'll it's a good idea.
That's a hell of a build.
Good video.
It was an old Red Bull delivery van,
and this is before this. No one was using a Sprinter van for anything. Now
No,
it's common.
we put 6 beds in it, and
drove the thing to Canada, all the way to Nova Scotia.
That's where we did the tour in, and then it blew
and
up.
then
that's another podcast.
That's
That's a whole story in itself.
Which was great, but and then we moved in. We're jumping around. Well, now we're in the bus stop, but now we're on it. We're might as well go and talk about Betty White.
Betty White.
We were that's right. Who could forget Betty White?
Yeah, I know
that was the RV, but I mean that was a bus. That was a coach.
Yeah,
right?
it stepped up. It stepped up.
Yeah.
But then obviously getting the Prevost and having an actual tour bus is a whole other
pinnacle. Yeah.
I mean, the Betty White bus should be its
nice.
own show on its own. Just
should
with
be.
all the adventures in
that's
that thing.
We put hundreds
needs it.
hundreds of thousands of miles on that thing, breaking down,
Catching fire.
Catching on fire
On the Scott Stapp tour.
That's okay. So now we're into conversation. Let's before we go too much further, let's talk about like what are some of the most like memorable shows that we've had. We'll start with Kenny. You go first. Most memorable show of all time.
The shows. So shows. Well, I mean,
tour. I guess you could go with the
Dude,
tour.
I'd have to say tours, man. Tours, because we had so many fun tours.
Yeah,
I mean, if it's a show, I mean, I think the opening for Alice in Chains was probably
that's definitely like high on a list.
That's high on the list.
I watched that video on YouTube. There's a bunch of fan film YouTube videos. If you search Messer live in, I think Cedar Rapids, the river.
Yeah, it was up in Iowa.
The river. Radio station put that on, but I like
Breaking
watching
Benjamin
because like
Bush
we're
and
up there
somebody else.
playing, and Jerry Cantrell, you can see he's on the side stage watching us. But what's cool is that there's our banners and our stuff, and then there's Bush's banner behind ours, and then Breaking Benjamin and Alice in Chains. So it's like that was such a great moment. I think that moment definitely for me is on the top list of like great moments. But also probably my favorite of all time, it's got to be the 4th of July in Twin Falls, Idaho.
That was fun. That's always fun.
Did that couple get married during the 4th of July?
Yeah, well, that was the first one we did. They got married at our one of them. But of
That's
course,
right,
we went
that's
back
right.
and did
'Cause
4th
we
of
went back,
July.
and they were there.
Yeah, they were there.
3 times, right?
Yeah.
So,
But the
That's
New Year's
fun.
one was like 40 below or some shit.
oh gosh, I don't think it was quite 40. You're probably converting for Canada.
Canada, yeah.
But I
Yeah,
think it
you're
was
carrying the
definitely
two.
it was definitely like 3 or 4 degrees. It was
was
cold.
freezing for
it was,
sure,
Oh, it was
yeah.
way below.
It was
freezing.
below
Yeah,
freezing.
way
We can do
below
coldest
freezing.
shows down
And
the
they
line
didn't.
too
They
in another
didn't.
episode.
It didn't even phase them. They lived there. They're like, this is
Yeah,
just
those guys
another.
are shirtless out there. Kids
Yeah.
were out there. It's no big deal. But that's also I because we live in Texas. I just didn't never think that people have electric clothes now. We live in the future, so everybody's just
Yeah.
out there with electric clothes on. So of course they're fine. But I got to figure out that air conditioned clothes down here though. But,
Right.
so yeah, what would you say, Derek?
I mean, tour wise, I mean, the Red and Lacey Sturm tour.
All right.
That was a lot of fun, and we learned a lot on that tour. I felt like
Oh, yeah.
too,
Oh,
watching these professionals
tremendous.
do it.
Yeah.
That was the grind because that was that how many months was that like in back to back with
That was 60. I want to say that was 60.
because we did a Royal Bliss after that and then we did a Red.
We were
Or that was
gone.
with the Red.
Red and Lacey Sturm.
Yeah.
We were
That was a
gone
great one. That was a fun
for a
tour.
couple of years.
Non-point tour.
Okay,
Right.
maybe that's what I'm
Blast.
thinking of. I like that.
Yep.
I mean,
Playing out
Black Label
Russellville,
Society
Yeah.
across Canada.
Okay, there you go.
I mean,
That was good.
that
I hadn't
was an
been back.
Now you're just naming all the tours, Derek.
I
They
just
were
named
all
tours.
amazing.
But yeah, all of those had moments that were just, you and I spent a lot of window time.
Sure,
for
that's probably that's a whole other that's a whole other podcast.
Things
Just
we've
the,
seen
the
on the
windshield,
road,
the
boy,
windshield. That's
windshield.
when you're driving and all those miles, which I mean, a tour can be one 2-week tour. You can hit 10 or 15,000 miles really easily. And there were some. I mean, we were definitely put over 100,000 miles.
Oh, easily.
In a year or more.
Yeah,
on-
you guys had it a little bit different though because I mean, most bands when they tour that they're in their bunk for most of the time.
Yeah.
You guys were at the windshield,
Every
Yeah.
night. I mean,
just grinding it. And then
Sometimes I have these weird flashbacks where I'll just remember like driving. I'll see so clearly a street that I drove down, in
Yeah.
a city somewhere. I'll remember a weird low
Anytime-
bridge or something.
anytime I pass a Loves or a Flying J, I get a
Oh,
little
God.
twitch.
For
I get a little
sure.
twitch.
I
It's
to this
like,
day
you
can't eat
saved you
Subway.
saved all the ones too,
Yeah.
so if you're like I've been here.
Oh, I know,
Yeah.
I know. I've
knew.
taken a deuce and a lot of them.
Man.
I bet.
Well, there was definitely, I guess, a lot of grind early on, and
Yeah.
of course, these are all probably conversations that would probably have to, we're gonna have to have spinoffs and go into lots of different areas on these things. But let's talk about, I guess, a little bit of like some of the burnout, of this, and some of like the darker side of things. Obviously, leading up to the pandemic, and we were pretty much like grinding as hard as we can. We had spent, stupid amounts of money on touring, on gas, on radio. I mean, gas, diesel,
Everything.
everything. And then coming home and having to be. For one thing, people don't talk about this. This is like we were used to getting, the drug every single night, the adrenaline, the rush, when you're on the road, life is like you're living this compressed life of where like,
Yeah.
it's like 10 lives in one day type stuff. And then you come home and then you hit this wall and it's like
nothing.
It feels like you're like just moving through molasses. But, we were kind of, I've said this before where it's like we were forced into sobriety. We were forced into sobriety from like the thing that
Emotional
fed us,
sobriety.
the thing that fed us
Yeah.
the most, which was the energy that we got
Yeah.
back from performing every single night, and that
having
exchange of-
purpose and
that
a
purpose.
schedule and
Yeah,
it was a buzz for sure.
yeah, it was 100%.
Then next thing you know, you're doing groceries.
And then you're
What-
like
Yeah.
staying 6 feet away from everybody.
Yeah,
or-
yeah,
Yeah,
the
that was,
lockdown, and
that was
we thought
goofy.
we were looking at that a whole different way. What we thought our lives were going to be at.
Sure.
At that point,
Yeah, we thought at that point we were really about to like start talking about Europe and taking this thing like
Yeah.
international
So we were going
over
with
the
it, for sure.
across the water. It's what a lot of people don't realize. That was kind of like our plan, and really once you kind of get on this hamster wheel of releasing and touring music, you kind of can't get off of it.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a bad drug,
and
for
it's
sure.
planned. Your life is kind of planned a year in advance, and that's something that I know that. And again, this is like another conversation to get into, but just talk about the dynamics of relationships and my role as a leader in this band, and at what point did I really try to like figure out, oh, okay, I am, because I fought that role for so long, you know what I mean? Like I really fought that role for so long, and then now, of course, I have the benefit of retrospect, looking back, that I wish I would have embraced it more, and
Sure.
and just been a better, because we all wanted the same thing. It's not like we didn't want the same thing. It's just that, I've realized that like you guys didn't have the benefit of the perspective that I had, because I was seeing things so far out in advance that a lot of times I think you guys, or Javi or Donnie, even at that earlier time, or before we got Jonathan in the crowd, you weren't privy to, and that's just, again, I could have disseminated all that information down better, and then you might have had a better understanding of perspective of like what was driving me this way or that way. But
Right.
I think
Well,
ultimately,
like you said, though, it was like some decisions needed to be made quick, and there wasn't time to put everybody on the thread or wait for replies, or
I mean, at some point, that's the thing that I don't think a lot of, well, it's why you don't see a lot of bands these days, because it's like, it's hard to like have that level of trust that, someone's, everybody's going to show up when you do something, and you book something or you make a commitment, because like I said, in this business, it's like part of what we're trying to prove to the people are, and I mean, I guess the industry, I'm not even sure what this means, but was that we were viable. And what I mean by viable is that, people don't talk about this thing, but like when you book a tour and you're a well-known, maybe you're a medium known, it doesn't matter what level of known artist you are, but if you're booking a tour, those tours are booked so far out in advance, and people buy tickets, people plan their nights around it, they get babysitters, maybe they took off of work, like there's such,
or drive hours
there's
to come
drive
see us.
hours to come see, and like that pressure is like, it's always like weighing, it's always weighed on me. You know what I mean? Like it always weighed on me to get us to the show, show up and do the thing. And it's like, that's part of like what you're, when people book Messer, they know what we're going to deliver, and it's going to be professional. It's going to be, there was a standard that I lived up to. And so it's hard to like, again, find people who can, live up to that. And then, you know what I mean? It's hard. It's hard. That's why there's only, again, there's 3 of us now. You know what I mean? It's not for everybody. So
a lot of dedication. That's for sure,
I wish I'd have had more, I wish I'd have had, or, had embraced the idea of like, a CEO leadership mentality. And that's one thing I guess I've learned like through my work with Operation Rock the Troops, and like, just going all of like the, trying to, be a better, leader type, stuff that I've gone through with that. I've realized that like, I could have done, I wish I could go back and do it all over again. Cause I totally,
I mean, you work with what you got, and we do the best that we can. And that's,
well, I mean, it's like, I'm still an artist too. And, that gets in the way, that gets in the way of a lot of things. And, I always said like, there are no, egos. There's one ego in the band, but again, that ego becomes my ego at some point. It's like the ego that we have is that one that we've created as a whole. And so it's like at some point we're in so deep, it's like I can't it's like you're in too deep, and now you can't get out of it. You know what I mean? But the focus has always been really just to try to maintain what the brand that we ultimately created, which we didn't really know, it wasn't clearly defined early on, like what is on brand. But I think it became evident as soon as we started playing shows and we started getting feedback from people. I think the brand became overwhelmingly evident. And
well, it's always been about the fans. You know what I
100%.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah, everything we've done is to make it sound good for them, make it look good for them. I mean,
Give them an experience.
give them
that
an
they
experience.
a memory they can go tell their kids about. Oh, I saw this band back in the day.
Yeah.
These guys were super nice. You know,
It was
Just
grassroots.
have people remember
I mean,
that.
You know, some bands start that they don't want to be, accessible.
Yeah.
You know
Sure,
what I
there's
mean?
the mystique. I mean, the internet's kind of ruined all of that a little bit.
Sure, for
there's,
sure.
There's
Now
too
it's like
much.
it's too
too
much.
It's
Yeah.
too much now because it's like even now, man. I mean, yeah, we had people know us, but not only we're not like super famous. But I have a look when I'm out and about. People are they look. You get looked at. You have a look.
You get looked at.
I get looked at.
But it's like this is it. This is this is what
Yeah, if they saw us on the street, they're going to get the same person.
It's
but
the same.
it's not. We're not like Kiss where we've got the different
No.
personas. But
No, I mean, at some point, even I think even for me, once the music, again, we started touring, I started getting the feedback from the family, like, oh, you know what? I don't have to like put on Maddox. I just need to be Maddox every single,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
at some point, that kind of transitioned.
well,
and,
you also had too many hats to wear.
yeah, well, that's another.
That was
That's
the other-
another podcast.
That's another podcast.
My hat collection will be.
That's another podcast. Maybe that's let's see. I wanted to get into some other. So obviously we've had some lineup changes through the years. And I don't want to get into any. No one's here to speak for themselves in that regard. But there's nothing but love for anybody who's ever shared the
Sure,
stage
yeah.
with
Oh,
us.
yeah,
And
100%.
And we get that it is difficult. But that's kind of like what are we doing now? You know what I mean? What's next? I mean, Kenny, obviously, you've been taking care of some stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that break. I'm doing the math, like 7 months or 8 months, I guess. That's the longest break I've had not playing drums or anything.
Sure.
Like probably since I ran out of gas here in '98.
Yeah,
So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts in family life and band life. So that's where, I mean, when you try to, it's not a vacation from it by any means. I think about it every day.
yeah,
But it's one of those things where you don't know if you want to. Do I want to take a year off? Do I want to like not play again? Do I want to do something again? There's always questioning yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I'm always going to be a musician. So
yeah. I don't think they can take that away from you. You know what I mean?
No.
It's like music is in you.
it is, and I mean, so many people have found their careers after that. In music too. Like, I mean, my dad used to always say, Bob Seger didn't get his first hit till he was 45 or
Right.
46 or whatever.
Colonel Sanders, he was
Yeah.
in his 40s, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Late 40s
so-
when he
Like the
became
Colonel
famous.
Sanders of.
Colonel Sanders of the music business.
Yeah. So
Well, I mean, life has thrown a tremendous amount of curveballs, I think, at all of us.
yeah, and it's life. I mean, we woke up today as different people as we were yesterday.
Yeah,
Sure.
for sure. Here we are sitting here. I never would have thought, fast forward, like I'm, my dad's gone. I've buried my brother. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your dad. It's like so many lives have.
After 17 years, I mean,
Yeah.
we've been, it's family.
Yeah, it is, and so a lot of that's changed, and so, Dereak has like 20 grandkids.
Yeah.
And now,
bless.
in less than a year and a half, I've got 3 grandkids now.
Yeah, that was like what
know?
you talk about, like changing your life. I remember being on the road, getting the call. I think we were outside of Lewiston, Idaho, or
Well,
Washington.
he mentioned Lewiston earlier. Gus
yeah,
did,
but
so
he was
that's funny.
making. Yeah, but he was mentioning another Lewiston. But that was Lewiston, Idaho,
Or Maine.
Maine. Yeah,
Lewiston.
but
Yeah,
I
maybe that's what he was saying.
yeah, I remember like we were on the road, obviously.
And getting the call that my son Ethan was gonna, his first was coming. So,
Yeah.
it's
That's
just
a
all went so
sacrifice that
fast.
you don't talk about. It's like, we were on the grind on the
We
road.
were trying to get back.
We were
Yeah.
trying to get back, and we're like, hope the baby
then
holds out.
and then the weather hit us.
Yep.
Yeah. And then flights, and then we were
it
trying to
was
figure stuff out.
It was just almost impossible, you know. But we made it back, and I was there.
But now there's three
within a year and a half.
Yeah.
Wow. So, you know, it's a blessing.
How many grand puppies you got over there?
Yeah, none that I know of.
But man, yeah, it's great to be able to, you know, have a little time, downtime to be able to, you know, be there for them and see them. And
yeah,
these are your golden years.
these are the golden years. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
for sure.
You know, we've had moments as this band that a lot of people will never get to experience.
Oh,
so
yeah.
And I think we all look at that as a blessing. You know,
Oh,
it was
for
like
sure.
Yeah.
some of the best stories of your life. You'll you know.
Well, I mean, at this point, I feel like, you know, nobody really knows me by, or, you know, really knows you by anything that we did in our 20s or 30s.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, at this point, like, this, you know, Messer defined so much, you know, of
So
our
many
lives.
people. Yeah, we're intertwined by so many people. You know, Kenny's always sending me pictures late at night of him with people that I, you know, known in forever.
That's
you
funny.
know what I mean?
I ran into your daughter.
I ran into my daughter
in the
and my
parking
son-in-law.
lot. Yeah.
That's insane.
Well,
you know?
I think, like, you know, obviously we started this, I started this podcast series really as kind of my transition, you know, out of like
What?
I'm trans now. I started this podcast really to kind of help me transition my time. Like, what am I going to do if I'm not on the road, if I'm not doing Messer, if I'm not booking Messer, if I'm not doing Messer, what am I doing with my life? Because
Right.
I realized that, you know, I never had a hobby. You know what I mean? Like this whole time, like I've never, like, what is my hobby? I don't have a hobby.
Couldn't name it.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I guess I could start a job for a hobby. I don't know what I do, but this seemed like a good, perfect fit for me to kind of transition into this. And I don't want to, you know, I'm saying, I don't think Messer, we're not going away anywhere. Like we'll never be out of business. We'll never be closed. I think, you know, taking this hiatus to just kind of see where things are doesn't mean that we can't keep, you know, making music or performing or playing music. But, you know, the idea of like, you know, going back on the road, sometimes I'll be honest with you, like my anxiety gets
traumatized.
Like, you know, and I'm actually going, I mean, I've been on the road with other bands without you guys, you know what I mean? Like since in the last year or two. So I've actually gone out and I'm got tours.
Got to go as a bass player though.
I got to go with just bass player, but also have been wearing just a bus driver hat and just going out and just renting out, you know, our bus, which, you know, ultimately, you know, I'm, my move is really just to try to find a good home to pass that on to another band that can get out there and
Grind.
and you know, while she's still got life left in her and everything.
Sure.
I would drive it more, but again, it's like if I'm going to be out on the road grinding, I'd rather be out there doing it for this, you know, or for, you know, Operation Rock the Truth, which I've realized that, you know, like in South Africa last summer, that like, you know, the fight and the struggles and everything that we were encountering in that particular moment to try to accomplish what we were doing there was like, it felt like, you know, the grinding days, like breaking down on the side of the road and anything and everything that could possibly go wrong could go wrong. But I was like, man, it felt different because I felt like I wasn't fighting, you know, the man. I wasn't fighting the music. I was like, because I felt like we were always in a war with like, you know,
it was a war.
Yeah, it is a war.
It was a battle.
You know,
against the system. You know?
Against the system, against whatever.
And the system
you know,
ultimately wins every time.
I know we always made our manager
house
Bob
wins.
out to be a bad guy. He's not a bad guy, but he just seemed to make a good villain. You know what I mean? But, you know, I think the fight is definitely, you know, it's changed now. You know what I mean? And believe me, I would love to be on the road.
Well, you got to change with it as a thing. You know? If you fight it too long, it's like you got to roll with the
Well,
the
I
punches.
mean, I'm not going to
sometimes.
sit around and make, you know, it's like making, I mean, it's like the business model has even changed now to how you even get exposure. And it's like, I mean, hopefully people will see these podcasts and go back and look up our music. And maybe that's one way to do it. You know,
It'll always be out there, man.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
No.
So, but I don't like the idea of going on the road again and like that grind is it gives me so much anxiety.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I get it.
I've kind of gotten used to sleeping in my bed every single night, and I've gotten a good routine going. You know, so it's like,
Dude, and you're happy, you know, that's the main thing. Are you happy? That's what you got to ask yourself at the end of the day. And,
It's finding balance.
We are.
Yeah.
I feel like we're all way
Yeah.
more balanced now. It's like,
Well, it's definitely changed, my whole entire perspective of life. I mean, if you think about, like, again, you look at the full arc of what all we've accomplished and the things that we've done, just like you said.
Well, that, and I mean, you've everything
unreal.
you've pretty much ever done, you've reached the pinnacle of it. I mean, you've owned restaurants, you've owned businesses, you've built koi ponds. I mean,
I've done a lot of stuff.
You've owned some badass or done some badass shit, and then when it's time to move, it's you'll do something badass somewhere else. I mean,
Well, I hope that that's kind of what this turns into. I definitely don't feel like we got into all the topics that we could fully get into, and I think there's like we should definitely
barely scratch the surface.
we barely scratch the surface.
yeah,
but,
there's
I think if you like why we kind of cover like, okay, well, why life's changing, obviously, grandparents. You're an only child. You got to take care of your family. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like I'm a
mom's
single
here.
guy. I'm just I mean, I have my daughter, obviously, and my mom. But it's like they need a lot more of my time, and of course, the kid.
Sure.
They sacrifice not having me around for so long. So,
Exactly.
well, this
Yeah,
this is
same,
it.
this is
so I'm kind of glad that like that's kind of there was like I guess a grief period that I kind of was feeling for a while. That like what is it? What is it?
Where's the purpose again?
I feel that it hits you all the time. You know,
Sure.
you think about it, then you're like,
But then on the road, you're like, why am I doing this?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
there's
a
like-
two-edged sword for
Yeah.
sure. It's
Well,
like
I hope the fans understand that we're just some regular old dudes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just trying to
We're humans.
and they don't because that's ultimately, like I said, that's been the driving force is the fans.
yeah, and we missed them. We missed every
Oh,
single one
God.
of them. And luckily we all have social media and we're able to keep in contact with a lot of these people. But end of the day, that's what we miss. We miss being on stage, entertaining and talking with you guys. And
for sure.
100%.
Well, are you still making knives?
I am, now that the weather's going to be kind of getting nicer once we get past the cold.
Sure.
Yeah, we're going back at it. I want to, spend a lot more time. Two-Headed Dog Knife Works, building knives. We got people
great.
inquiring about them all the time. So
and you've taken your security business to like a whole other level now, right?
Yeah, that's for saying security all these years.
makes-
I just
makes
willed it into
sense. Yeah, you
existence,
did.
I guess. I should have been saying
I got a good-
millionaire.
You should got a tag. You should have, but tagline. That's it. It's security. I think you can put that on a shirt.
Yeah, I should put it on a shirt.
I've seen that on
I think
shirts.
somebody might have ripped me off.
I've seen that on shirts before, man.
But I think that's great, and I again, that's another podcast. Like we can get into all of that stuff as well, because like I said,
we gotta come back and chat about all the different things we're doing.
Man, there's just so much.
Yeah.
It's too much. It's almost too much. Well, see, go read my notes here real quick. So, like, realistically, the future of Messer, like, what does it really look like? You know what I mean? Like,
Who knows?
Who knows, right? I mean,
Reach out, let us know.
Yeah.
If people want to see us? Yeah. If you want to
I
see
was
us that bad.
thinking the one that heals. We never released it, but it got mixed and mastered for that.
maybe some deep cut stuff. I mean, I know Dereak and I,
Some old stuff.
We have some
Dude, yeah.
unreleased music too that we've done. But,
Yeah, the one that heals. I was thinking about that the other day because what's the band?
That was the
Pretty
first-
Reckless. The Pretty Reckless.
Oh yeah, that song always sounded like that.
They
didn't
have
Yeah.
a song that came out after hours that sounds
Pretty similar.
very similar to the chorus of that.
One last thing, I guess. If you'd like to say one thing to the fans that have been with us from day one, or any of the fans.
Go
out
home.
there.
The show's over.
Yeah.
No, Jesus Christ,
Don't forget to tip your waitresses.
for sure.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Closing time.
No, thank you.
Thank you from the bottom of our hearts,
everything, everything that you do today. You're still
Yeah.
playing our songs. You're still messaging
And don't stop.
us. Yeah, don't
Yeah.
stop. Play them even more.
Keep sharing them.
Share them.
Definitely
play them.
share 'em.
Maybe the
Report our
demand will get
hearts
there.
into these songs, and
They're built to last.
yeah,
I
they're
mean,
definitely. And I think these songs, each have their own story,
Yep.
and they have our stories all pressed in there. So, if you want to hear our lives in a song, go listen.
Yeah.
I was just telling a friend the other day. It's like we was going through some stuff with this old lady. I'm like, we have a song for that.
Can we say old lady still? Can we still say
I
that?
don't know if we can say old lady still, but yeah,
You said I got a song for it. Yeah,
I
here
did.
it
I
goes.
did. I said I have a song for that.
Oh,
so,
you need track 9 right
yeah,
now, buddy.
that's it.
You need track 9.
I got you. Say
I
less.
got you. First taste is free.
I think that obviously we have some of the most amazing fans. Many fans we've lost along the way that are no longer with us.
We have. Yeah,
and
that's true. Some
great ones, and some who are still hanging in there. I will like to say definitely there's a few like old Mr. Bob D's definitely keeps me. I see his poster comments and I'll get up and I'll keep going one more day for this guy. You know what I mean?
For sure, 100%.
We were just texting today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he keeps me going. I don't think he knows it, but I think like all of fans like Carl and his whole family.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
there's
so many.
There's too many.
Some more people we should thank too, besides our families who put so much on hold for us while,
obviously that's
but some of the great bands that we got to tour with.
Look, yeah, that's another
you know?
podcast. So it's like,
I mean, really,
let
we
me
could
just
go
tell you
through-
right now,
yeah.
if there's things, then people are gonna have to blow up the comments of this very first episode if you want to.
Yeah,
Let us
tag-
know if you want to hear stories.
tag
We've
some people.
got the stories.
I
But
mean,
huge thank you
Tag
to
the
all
Royal
these
Bliss
bands.
guys. I love those dudes.
All of them. Pop Evil for taking us out
Yeah.
a bunch. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just turning us on to their fans who became fans
And treating
of ours.
us like equals.
You know, and those fans still reach out to us, and we're so blessed.
I
And
think
thankful.
rock music is still alive. I think it's ever evolving. I don't know if kids are going out and starting bands anymore, but I encourage you to find a group of
Like-minded.
individuals and start
Bash
a
it
band
out.
Yeah.
and try to put
Pour
something
your heart
together
into it,
and put your heart into it, because I think that's the one thing that to sum this all up is that we always came together and focused our energy, and when you have a group of guys who have that ability to all be on the same
Yes.
page in that same moment, obviously you can go out and do some pretty cool things. So
Yeah, we did.
well,
touch people,
hey,
Hey.
not physically, but touch people right here,
yeah, for sure. That's what it's all about. So, I would like to thank you guys for
Thanks
being
for having
the
us in the first
episode.
one, dude.
First
This is
one.
great.
And that's it, man. We'll see what's
Tune
next.
in.
We'll have you guys back again.
This has got so much
We got to talk
potential.
about knives. We got to talk
We
about
got knives
security.
talk, man. We got so much. I still want to get you guys out there to make a knife. We got
Hell
to
yeah.
do that. There's a
we'll do
whole
it.
other world out there that's cool things that we can all do. So
Yeah.
Let's do it. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
thank you for having us on. Thank
See
you
you guys
Nick.
soon.
We love you.